Hey, what's going on, Dylan? Yeah, I switched out a few pieces. Try to get something new on the table every night. It's always different people for the most part, but I like to keep it fresh, you know. I wish I knew what it said. Definitely a cuneiform type language. Yeah, the bone expert got to look at the piece here on Wednesday, and he could not confirm what type of mammal or animal or any sort of what it came from. He had speculation. He thought it could be some type of pelvic bone, but after looking at all the different pictures and the varieties, how they change so much between them, he said there's no way to be sure without getting it tested. And so, yeah, we're now going to do more tests and then carbon date it and go from there. These are all from Tula, Hidalgo, Mexico. If you guys are having a good Friday out there, definitely hit the Happy Friday thing. Help us hit our goal. I don't speak, I believe that might be Spanish. Only speak English, sorry. If I can get this to focus. There we go. Thanks for the follows, guys. Our feed has a lot of videos over the last couple of years. I've just been documenting anything that I see on the market that doesn't quite fit with normal, modern reproduction type work. I mean, I know the Mexicans are crafty down there, but some of this stuff is absolutely next level. The way these things fit into each other, and like each of these pyrite balls, you can't put this one in this hole. Like they have to go in the right holes. They're very hard to get out of there. Well, I don't know if it's aliens or angels or the people who worship these beings. There's a lot of stories out there. It's kind of why I'm here trying to document it. So maybe someday we'll figure it out for sure. It's just like the Bible and all these religions and cultures. Like, hopefully someday we know. Yeah, this is the lid for it here. This is one of my favorite handbags right here. Yeah, I own all these. Yeah, been buying them. I'm asked about 550 of them, just honestly trying to debunk it at first. Like, I really thought they were fake. But if someone that's collected stones and looked at this kind of stuff for my whole entire life, pretty much. Like, I was into Egyptian stuff when I was a little kid. Um, I've never seen anything like this. They're found in Tula, Hidalgo, Mexico. The amount of sacred geometry and the type of cuts they are, like you can look at this design here of how it was put onto there is really the interesting parts to me. We've looked at them with a sweeping electron microscope, and you can even see it from here. You don't need the microscope. Like there's no symmetry in the sidewalls. Like if you were to take a Dremel and go down that line, it wouldn't leave such a non-symmetrical groove. When the sweeping electron saw it, it showed a slight burr at the top of it, and they said it almost looked like what steel looks like after you cut it with a plasma torch. So it's interesting. Maybe some sort of fire-based device or plasma device did this, and that's what these etchings here, like the circles. It's almost as if it was burned or something. And the depth of all these carvings. Let's see if I can get a side view. Is just very, 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 very shallow. Some of them are like it's smooth to the touch. Can't even tell it's been engraved. Heck yeah, Dylan. No, it's really really cool to get the questions and be able to answer these things and try, or at least try to answer what I can. And I get a lot of comments on the videos, but it's always just a quick something back and forth. There's never any real dialogue, so it's great. What was the question there? Oh, laser. Yeah. So the laser cuts, that's something that we have, and we can see that it's not a laser by the definition of the cut. Certain things like that right there. You still see like it was done by hand in a lot of respects, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense to do such. It's just like Egypt. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like they knew something we didn't, type of deal. These have been found in Tula, Hidalgo, Mexico. Yeah, yeah. I think there could be some ancient technology from the Stone Age that we're not aware of. I mean, you look at the Incan civilization, Cuzco, and the walls and stuff that they built on hillsides. It's absolutely insane to think how they cut that and made it like that. The phosphorescence I'll show you here with the light off is really quite neat. Each piece has a real unique character this way as well. You can see on our posts, we post a lot of long exposure shots that show these things in their true beauty. But it looks pretty cool just on camera too. Yeah, Ken, and I thought the same thing. Like, come on now, but if you look into like the Smithsonian back in like the early 1900s, they came out and said it in the Grand Canyon. They found all kinds of Egyptian stuff and giants and sarcophagus, and then they shortly thereafter retracted what they said. Um, but it's interesting that they would. It's also interesting that there's multiple mountain peaks in that area of the Grand Canyon that are named after Egyptian gods, Isis, Osiris, etc. And why they would name places in the Grand Canyon after Egyptian gods is strange. At the bottom, yeah, here. It's really heavy. The big box has a pretty cool bottom, but thing weighs like 50 pounds, so I'm gonna let it sit. This one's got some geometry on it. Yeah, the masculine, feminine. If you've ever read the Pistis Sophia, I think it's really interesting and kind of goes hand in hand with what we're seeing here. It talks a lot about that kind of stuff in those type of Coptic and Gnostic texts. Yeah, witchcraft, yeah, hex, all these black magics. Even go back to like King Solomon and the rituals he would do, and look at Aleister Crowley's work. It's really so somewhere all this knowledge was bestowed upon us. I mean, it's inside the three circles. Oh, there. Try to get one out here. They're a pyrite ball. I should have hit these with the black light. These things glow pretty neat. Sharpie marks on its face. No, they're absolutely not. Here, I'll give you a macro shot. You can see they're put in with some sort of engraving, no question. But not like any engraving I've ever seen either. What do you think? Yeah, very skeptical indeed. That's the whole purpose of my channel is I was really, really skeptical about this, and I just tried to prove it false. Every day that goes behind me becomes harder and harder to do that. So, yeah, I started buying them off of eBay. I'd seen a show on America Unearthed on, I think it was Discovery or History at the time, and Scott Woltar is the host, and he brought on a guy, Mark Russell, and they carbon dated and looked at these pieces with electron, and they're just blown away. And this is the Ojuelos pieces. They haven't done any shows on the Tula pieces that I know of at this point, but this is the Ojuelos stuff, and they've carbon date this anywhere from 8 to 21,000 years ago. Yeah, Tula, Tula, Hidalgo, big one at the bottom. Yeah, no, I didn't get all of them off of eBay. I just started like there's this type of stuff off of eBay. These pieces here, I had to just to start my research, and then I started to meet some of the families, and I started asking for bigger pieces and like is there household daily items? Is there ceramic pieces? I really started to want to try to debunk it. I worked with like over 35 different families down there, bought pieces from many different regions, just trying to find a hole in the story. What's crazy about it to me is the story is the same in all these regions like this. So somehow they would have to have corroborated to get the story right. It's all the same figures, the same depictions, DNA manipulation. It's just really strange that these places that are 8 hours away by car came up with the same story to a T. Yeah, I mean, afraid is I trust my gut, I guess, and my gut tells me that this is what I need to be doing. So I just trust it. The whole thing's a scary and crazy life. I mean, we're traveling at 20,000 miles an hour through space right now, so there's a purpose for everything, and I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So, yeah, oh, absolutely. Sorry if the lights kind of pour down here. Yes, Sir Michael. Definitely, you can message me or chat me anytime. I'd love to talk. This thing is really heavy. It's a banded calcite. And this is one of the few pieces that have what seem to be similar to Mayan glyphs on them. I did ask a anthropologist what her opinion was of these Mayan glyphs. She said that it was not something that she could translate based off of anything that she'd seen before. And that's the same story I got with the cuneiform and any of the language that we found. But there are certain things that are similar to other languages across the board. Yeah, meditating with them and the truth. I mean, I feel I probably understand it to some extent, maybe, but uh, it's it's so much to learn. It's not just an aha thing. There's a lot of history involved. Our civilizations. It's insane, especially if these go back 20,000 years. I haven't personally tried that type of meditation, but I definitely have meditated with these pieces. I'm a musician, so I play the synthesizer, and I often do meditations while I'm making music and playing the synth and holding these pieces. I wrote a couple albums here over the last couple of years using that technique. It's music regardless on Bandcamp. It's crazy. They hollow this thing out like it's stone. Wild experiences, feel some weird energies and stuff like that, but nothing wild per se. No. Yeah, it's definitely a scarab. See a lot of Egyptian and a lot of Sumerian, like you can see Anki on a lot of pieces, or what looks to be maybe like Anki. These are from Tula, Hidalgo. Yeah, Dominic, I made it this far without it so far, so that's a real blessing. A lot more people are aware. There's a lot more people collecting, asking questions, and that's what we all need to do because um, there's definitely some unanswered ones that I have. Oh, okay, awesome, San. I'm not an expert in Sumerian, so that's really good to know. I appreciate that. Yeah, a lot of elongated heads, and there are fakes out there. Absolutely, we have we've identified probably close to 200 where it's just obvious one way or another, whether it's got maybe the eyes that are inlaid or made of glass, or maybe it's a quartz skull that looks like it might be citrine, but it's actually glass. There's been quite a few fake that's just obvious. The tooling marks are different. Like this type of stone here, we think it might be something that was done wet. You can see all the pores and what do they call that? It's like a boiling on the surface that occurs when it's fired. And, but the mineral tests on these are calcite and quartz to be the dominant. So really strange that it would be turned into a liquid or a mud. Yeah, Shakespeare. That's what we're here to find out is what it is. Things like this bone and the fact that it's got the same symbols and carvings and luminescence and phosphorescence that you find on all these pieces, etc. The data's here. That's the cool part. I believe we have a compiled amount of data that's going to tell us within a pretty good idea whether it's real or not. It's just a matter now of paying for all the tests and finding the scientist was the hardest part. I spent like 2 full years reaching out to people. I wrote to every show and ancient aliens people and just trying to get answers from somebody. Popular scientist, Joe Rogan, you name it. I tried to contact them, and it was really tough. Finally got a hold of Linda Moulton Howe, and didn't really get too far with that. But her curiosity kept my curiosity alive, and now we have someone that's extremely passionate helping us out, and he's got the accredited lab and all the things that will make this believable to modern science if we do it just right. Yeah, and I'll show you the bone school that's phosphorescent here. Just 1 second here. I'll show some of these, and then it's in a bag over here. I've been meaning to show it here the last couple nights. Yeah, Smithsonian Institute. That's funny. You're a funny guy. I wish that we had proper facilities like that took this stuff seriously. Like serious to me is either proving it one way or another. Doesn't have to say that they agree that it's real, but give me some compelling evidence at least that it's not. At least talk about it. Don't just ghost it. Because that's the answers that I get. Why do they all glow? That's a really good question because they did not have a 385 to 395 black light, 10,000 years ago. But as you can see, they're angelic beings, Anunnaki type beings. And what does it say in the text about those beings? Is that they had a halo or they emit a splendor of light. And so that being said, if that light could have been, you know, that frequency as well. They might have had that spectrum in there just like the sun. And if that's the case, then just them being around could have been like this. Customs opens everything. Everything's fully legal. Um, that's something I wanted to make sure of. I did not want to have customs coming and saying, "Hey, you're breaking treaties and blah blah blah." But yeah, it's just still fascinating to me because to think someone would go through this much effort on a hoax, all on the same story with all these crazy languages and things that function in ways, tools, like these ritual pieces here. I'll show you. I mean, some of this stuff is a real imagination, unlike anything on the reproduction side that I've ever seen. I showed this to some people, and obviously it's a craft and probably some sort of, you know, mongoose or something connected to the seashell. But man, you look at the seams, and it's like you can't really tell where the shell ends and where the bone starts. So yeah, it's not done with a Dremel. Sweeping electron microscope tests have proven that. You can see that on America Unearthed with Scott Walter. He's the first one that proved that. Yeah, it could very well be for sound and energy of some degree. Sound and light, they're both a waveform. So I'm going to grab that skull that's phosphorescent here. So stand by 1 second here, guys. Enjoy the guy looking back at you here. This was the very first skull that we found, and it seems like it was more of a ritual piece. It's also the type of bone here is almost as if it's petrified versus these other ones are, more of a bone type material, but this one is really interesting. It's you can see how it's almost like it's petrified. But the fact that it had the language and the angels on it is really interesting now that we have, more of these. Let me see if I can show you the suture lines inside of this thing. Maybe. Pretty crazy. The more crazy thing is to put it into AI and ask it what it looks like alive. I'll show you the phosphorescence here now. The luminescence on the top, and then I'm going to have to get to a darker place here to show you the phosphorescence. I might not show it on here. You can kind of see it, but I'll post a better video of it. But it's just a very short, and it's very sporadic through it. There you go. That's a better spot to hit it. Yeah. Yeah, it's been found in Tula, Hidalgo. Yep, that's probably the truth. Light will surface. Yeah, this stuff's been being found, from Ojuelos since the early 90s. As far as from Tula goes, there's a couple reports in like 2008, 2013, but they really started doing expeditions when georadar became more affordable, and they were able to start really searching the grounds quickly and prospecting, and that's like 2017, 2018. And once they started to realize, it started to catch on, people realizing that, we can take this out of the ground and sell it legally right now because the government says it's fake. So obviously one of our friends had to bury it, wink, wink, and it's pretty unfortunate because it's also fueled, fakes being made. But the thing is the guys will sell the fakes for more than what the real ones cost because the cost of actually making one of these is not cheap. So that's one thing we've really noticed. You'll seem like it's almost like they're gouging you on the fake pieces because someone put a lot of effort into it. It's definitely not a lamb skull, and I'll show you why I know that. The smaller one there, we had the pelvis in the lamb situation that we thought as well, but seeing this one here, you can see it's got a vertebrae coming down, as well as it's got different sorts of appendages on there. But the vertebrae really shows that it was likely a upright type of being. The wavelength is 385 to 395. The 365, it kind of lights the stuff up, but nowhere near, especially, being able to see it like that in the light. It's a really good question on the tools. Some of it seems like it was done wet. Some of it seems like it was burned in there. Others seems like it was like a plasma or some sort of tool that we don't necessarily have. Like this. It's very, very precise yet imprecise in terms of the edges and symmetry on the walls. Sorry for my shaking. Is it real? That's really the question that the feed is all about. Like we're here to research to find out because we don't know. And there's a landfill of evidence here that says that it could be. And carbon dates aren't enough. Thermoluminescent testing is not enough. I think when we get to the DNA part of things, we start really putting it all together. A new revelation is that these pieces, this type of stone, as you can see, it's got pores at the surface, but when drilled into by customs, it's white underneath, and that's consistent on all of these pieces that have this type of stone with the pores. And so it's likely that it was baked at one point and not by the Earth's formation. So if that's the case, we'll be able to date every single box here. And if that comes to be true, it's going to be really, really hard to argue. Yeah, I thought the same thing. Nobody, I mean, reality is people throw money at me way more than what I paid for a lot of these pieces, and they don't care if it's real or not. They want it as art. I mean, alabaster statue like this is not something you find at Goodwill. And so, as a modern art value, these pieces still hold a really good merit. Um, so it's like the price that they're selling them for down there is likely cheaper than what you could make it for. No, these are all banded calcite. Banded calcite. This one here is aventurine. I do have a couple jade pieces. Got a gold onk. It was leafed or painted with gold, and it's multiple different alloys all over it. I'll show you my jade piece here. See the translucence of it around the edges and how it's pretty dull. Aventurine, if you put a light like this close, it'll look like it's like speckly or sparkly rather. Plastic with cheap paint, yeah. I can prove that a million times that it's not. So. This here is from Ojuelos, Jalisco, Mexico. This green piece, the jade. The language on it is found all over on these Ojuelos pieces. There's been over 10,000 of them documented. They all do not repeat in terms of like normal language or vowels. They're very precise. Yeah, I mean, a million ways I can prove it that it's stone because each one of these pieces is absolutely stone, and it's really, you know, hard to fake that as plastic, you know. I'll throw it on a scale in front of you if you want. Yeah, a lot of hieroglyphics and cuneiform. This was the very first pine cone that they found 3 years ago. They sold it to me. They didn't have any idea that the symbols down here glowed. And I had one of these lights. My wife does glass, and so there's all kinds of like uranium glass and different types of glass that glow. And we were sitting at the table one day, and all of a sudden, like you can see it just from catching the outside of it, and we're like, what the hell? And yeah, so then the people down there just kind of flipped out. They were really impressed that this stuff glowed. I actually had to send a couple lights down there, and yeah, what makes it glow is definitely something that we're going to be able to figure out. Um, it could be just a simple, they make glow in the dark paints and stuff with minerals out of the earth that have that effect. The interesting thing is the way it's inlaid on some of these stones. I mean, you can see it's very interesting how it reacts. Some pieces are fully glowing, and there's just no real sign of any paint or anything. Yeah, that's the bag and the pine cone. You've got maybe Osiris or something, and Anubis and Ra. I don't know who the elongated head is, but yeah, that's my favorite bag for sure. And as far as reading the writing, understanding it, there are things that, for instance, like this looks like the little mountain ranges often means water. You know, there's things like that that are pretty general, but then you go to that Ojuelos language or some of the stuff like, these type of symbols here, and it's hard to say. It just depends on the piece. The date ranges that have been found with carbon dating and thermoluminescent testing are between 8 and 21,000 years ago. I have tried to contact Tom DeLong a couple times, and I've gotten no response. I figured he would be really interested to at least look at the pieces, and want to prove them one way or the other. But it's really hard to get a hold of TV personalities. It took me 2 years to find one that actually took me seriously. Well, I take that back. About a year. Linda Moulton took me seriously, but didn't have the knowledge or the connections to get this stuff verified. Because that's the thing. You got to have a PhD to really do anything that's worthwhile. And in order for them to do anything worthwhile, they need all this chain of command. They've got to have you know organic material from the dig site. They've got to have all these things to make it official. So it takes a lot. Yeah, they very well could, Roddy. I thought it was fake at first, but when I started seeing the bones and the similarities on the bones with the pieces in terms of the carvings, and I definitely have questions. I mean, we're definitely capable with what I've got here on the table to get some answers. So we might as well get them at this point, and that's what we're doing. Because I don't want people to get ripped off if they're buying these things and they're all being made down there and people are pointing and laughing. But I've collected art for a really long time and I've never seen anything like this. So regardless, the artist needs to step up if they are modern and take a bow because they did a really good thing, in terms of hollowing out rocks and making whistles out of them and stuff. Like that is, I don't even know. I'll play one here. Yeah, reached out to Stephen Greer, Hancock, um, you know, Robert Schock, a lot of different people, Van Donegan, all the Ancient Aliens people. It's just the people that are researching this, that are taking it really serious, or Scott Woltar, Nassim Harriman, Greg Braden, um, some of those guys. They all have publications and stuff on them, or TV shows with it on there. Haven't tried David Wilcock. They're from Tula, Hidalgo, Mexico. Hey, what's going on, Sinister? What's under the skull? I do have the bracelet. I don't have it out right now. I keep that in the safe, but I did bring it out the other night. If you look at my videos, you'll see the like on the recap video, you'll see it on there. Yeah, I'm a private collector up in Washington State in the United States. Contacted Joe Rogan for sure. Figured he would be all over this. A lot of these guys that devote their lives to aliens and figuring out the truth. I mean, at the minimum, like I even offered to pay for all the testing. I offered to pay the PhD for their time, all this stuff, and it took a serious act of Congress to make it happen. I mean, if it was so simple and so easy to assume that it was fake for them, like why wouldn't they just prove it? I'm willing to pay. I want the proof. So it's really controversial at this point in terms of what it is. I love learning about it though. It's beautiful art. It's awesome, hipster. Reach out, make the connections happen. Let's get to the bottom of this. That's why I do this stuff, is just to try to spread awareness and get the research out there. My website has over 12,000 of these pieces documented, and it's about to get a huge another update. So hopefully at some point someone can make knowledge of it and we can get some. Yeah, I agree, Logan. Yeah, it's really, really amazing art, and it's not just amazing art if it's modern. Like they went through such extremes to age it or to make it look aged. Uh, the amount of time there, and then all the inlays of the glowing and burying this stuff, dig videos. Like they've gone through a ton. Yeah, someone helps something. You go back on the Sumerian kings list and how old it is. I think it's around 250,000 years. And then you look at the fossil record, and our DNA, or rather our chromosome, the Y chromosome evolved. And that's where we got a lot of our knowledge and, advanced sort of things. And so a supercomputer ran a calculation to see from like our previous Neanderthal stuff, like what it would take to evolve that chromosome, and the odds of it happening were so rare that it was considered impossible. It's like 10 to the 500 or something like that. With the blue glow. Yeah, I can. Yeah, hang on one sec. I got some ones that glow blue here. These cups down here. I'll show you. These cups are about 120 pounds. Just the top piece on there is like 50, 60 pounds for the pine cone. And they're definitely something that only a giant could take a swig out of, because I can hardly lift it with two hands. They're from Tula, Hidalgo, Mexico. No, unfortunately, I've never been to Mexico. Go figure, right? I sent some friends down there though, paid for their trip, and sent them down there unannounced. I've sent a lot of money to get all these pieces, so I'm kind of afraid that if they scan my passport, there could be, possible extortion or circumstances that are out of my control. So I've just kind of stayed away. But my friends that went down there, they pulled pieces out of the ground without any local help in Ojuelos, Jalisco. As far as Tula Hidalgo goes, digging there is a little bit different, and you really need permission or someone to turn their cheek to allow you to dig, because otherwise it's just it's super illegal. These guys are risking their skin to pull this stuff out of the ground, and obviously they're getting paid for it, and that's not an easy thing to do in this economy. So a lot of people have taken up this and going out and getting what they can. They're all made out of stone for the most part. Yeah, I thought they looked fake at first myself, and the story really evolved to a point to where I really can't argue at this point without some sort of significant evidence that it is fake, because no one's presented me with anything that's substantial. Yeah, how does it glow? Well, there are a lot of stones that glow. Calcite specifically, and calcite's the dominant rock that's in all this stuff. We think it's a type of pottery or ceramic. That's why there's pores at the surface, and how they could shape it into boxes with such precision fit. It's just crazy. But that calcite will glow naturally. This is a green calcite here, and it will glow red. And it's definitely the most ridiculous fakes I've ever encountered, if they are, because the story is so deep. And I mean, to depict Anubis choking out an alien and all this type of stuff, all the little things, like that someone put a lot of love to hollow out a large stone pyramid like this. You put a light inside of that thing with this cat in there, and you get some insanely cool shadows on the wall. Yeah, you can't put a price on it. I don't really sell them because of that. Like, I started out buying them off of eBay because that's the only place I could really find them for sale. And I would find little pieces like this, and so I bought a few just to study, and then I started getting to know some of the sellers, and once I got connected down there into Mexico, I kept wanting to find the dig videos and who was digging them up, and I wanted to see the start to finish process, obviously, before I invested more money. And they provided a lot of data. I've not yet been able to trip them up data-wise, even trying. A remote start. I just searched for alien carvings, or you can search for the specific region too, like Tula or Ojuelos. I don't know. It ranges. Sometimes there's stuff on there, sometimes there's not. Yeah, I have put that pine cone in the water before just to see, and didn't see anything. I put it in front of mirrors and all that stuff too, just to see, because I've seen those videos, but nothing, nothing crazy. Yeah, the interplanetary thing, and obviously with the Titans, and you have Mercury and Jupiter, and they're all named after these planets that they, um, whatever, right? The mythology of Greece, and then obviously you look at the story of the Anunnaki and the fallen angels, and then the Bible, and you start looking how Epic of Gilgamesh and Genesis are like, peas in a pod, and so it's interesting. And a lot of these pieces have Saturn depicted on there, probably the most common like planet that's depicted. And there's a lot of real interesting lore about Saturn as well. Yeah, no, I've never been to Mexico, Mario, but these items are from the black market in Mexico, yes. However, the black market here is not like buying Mayan or Aztec stuff where you're going to break treaties and have police at your door with the DHL courier or whatever. Anything with an alien or UFO depicted on it in 2017 was deemed that it has to be modern. So they don't care. Customs open these, they see the aliens, they throw it back in the box and send it on its way. Don't get me wrong, though, there have been some inconsistencies as well. My business partner, he got raided by Homeland Security and the FBI when he was supposed to be delivered a piece. It was a staff. They seized the staff. They won't give it back. They thought he was dealing drugs or some sort of weapons because of the amount of money he had sent to Mexico, and that was their excuse. There was like 900 pieces in his house. They didn't touch a single one of them. They took his phone. They gave it back a week later. They still won't give back the staff. Yeah, they do drill holes in some of the stuff. I've got 4 or 5 pieces that have drilled holes. Yeah, it is definitely odd, Star Lady. And the staff had a really peculiar blue stone on it as well, which is um, they're all from Tula, Hidalgo, Logan. This one back here was the very first one that we got, and it's. Let's see if I can zoom in here. You can see the type of material. This one almost seems as like it's petrified. It's really, really hard, whereas these ones seem more fresh. Or all of them are really lightweight. Yeah, I'm agreeing with what all you guys are saying. Giving it back. I mean, hey man, if the government came to me right now and said, these are all real, what you have is stolen artifacts from Mexico, we need them back, I would gladly give them their pieces back. Like, the only reason I bought these is because they told me I could, you know? And that's the same reason with the people pulling them out of the ground. They were told they could, and but digging down there is, however, frowned upon. So that's where it gets kind of dicey. Like if you walk around with any sort of equipment or shovels, you can be questioned and stuff like that. So fined, whatever. You're not supposed to dig in Mexico, even if it's your own property, which is kind of strange. And you know, the Vatican still has a lot of legal authority in Mexico, which is an interesting thing. It will be known. Absolutely. Yeah, I saw that. Are you talking about the one in Russia, 80s baby? Yeah, this green one, I photograph it all the time. Like it's got some real like photographic angles. Just the way the face looks, you can do some really cool portraits with this piece. In fact, that right there is one of the pieces I took. It almost looks better in the picture than Yeah, those eyes aren't painted on, buddy. That's gold. You can see the XRF testing on my feed or website. We've had them all tested with XRF. It shows their alloy. None of them are 24 karat either, which would be consistent to something modern. Because if you go buy gold leaf right now off of Rio Grande or something like that, you're going to find 24 karat only. It's not going to have silver. It's not going to have rhodium. It's going to be purified so they know the weight and they can sell it to you at the right amount, right? But none of these, every spot is a different alloy. The bracelet is a different alloy than that bracelet, so on and so forth, which is really an interesting fact because to get that many alloys of gold leaf, you would probably have to be making it yourself at this point in time. Can I copy what? Yeah, we've 3D scanned all these. We're working on creating like a digital preservation project where it's going to have a museum app type thing. You can download an app, walk through, and see all these pieces. You can zoom in on them. 60 megapixel photogrammetry. Photography is my like hobby passion. So I've been doing like these type of metal prints that really just show the detail well on the piece. You know, like this piece right here is only about 2.5 inches tall. Yeah, no, sky's the limit on that sort of stuff, Lee. I mean, you could absolutely make copies, and it's hard to see with the glare, but the copies of making some of these though are quite expensive. We wanted to have resin replicas made of the astroglabe and or astrolabe rather, and But man, they wanted like $130 or something a piece, plus like a $300 or $400 mold creation. And I mean, the pieces, I think I paid maybe 1,200 bucks for that or something, 1,000 bucks maybe. I don't know. It's all in pesos. I usually try to buy a lot of pieces at once to preserve shipping and cost, and just put it on a pallet. Shipping it through the normal mail is really risky. You have a lot of pieces that get broke that way. That's the worst thing about getting them, because going through customs and things, it's just they don't repackage it properly at all. Yeah, that's where I'm at, Starlady. I love taking the pictures and just cataloging it. I mean, even if it's modern, the gallery potential here of something worth looking at is it's definitely fascinating to me. Yeah, you could 3D print them, I imagine, to some extent, but I mean, the texture, considering a lot of the pieces have, scars and things like that, it's probably not gonna look right, you know. That was the really most expensive part of the resin replicas. Like if you wanted the colors to match, it's just ridiculous. Yeah, that's where I was done. I had to have it. Now these are gold leaf. You can see the gold here. Yeah, it's a better view. It's coming off because this piece went through a nightmare getting it out of the ground. This head here you can see is broken off at the bottom. The body for it is over here. That piece weighs 140 pounds, and the way it came out of the ground was really rough. So it's in multiple pieces, and it makes me very sad. They use GPR and georadar to find the pieces. And I didn't understand on the georadar. I'd see these guys with metal detectors, and I thought they were pulling my leg, but apparently there's a mod that you can do to higher end, like $3,000 to $5,000 model geo radars, and they will pick up electromagnetic frequencies. And what's interesting is I'll show you here with a tri-field meter. You turn on the electro frequency, and as you get closer to pieces, you can see substantial effect. And so this is just a little tri-field meter, but imagine with a geo radar with some serious power behind you, you can definitely detect these things, 30 centimeters or 40 centimeters in the ground pretty easily. If you want to go below that, you're going to need geo radar, and it's a little bit more costly and time consuming. But the, the EMF is really bizarre to me. There's rumors of these guys in Ojuelos back in the 90s, and they were using pendulums. They said the aliens showed them how to find the pieces with pendulums, and I kind of laughed at it. I seen them doing it, and then I'll bring them out from the safe. But I've got a few different pendulums, and they show the people on there using them on a string, depicted in the carving. And yeah, sorry, user. I haven't, no, but I am. I'm not exactly for sure what you're saying, but you can DM me anytime, man, and I'll be more answering of that question. But yeah, the pendulum thing's really bizarre. However, you go down to that part of Mexico, south of Chihuahua. Chihuahua has areas to make your compass just sit there and spin. So the magnetic fields and things like that in Mexico are already something that's kind of unique. And so, it's possible they might be able to use a pendulum to find them too. I don't rule it out at this point. How weird, Start feeling it tug at you or tug towards you or whatever. Yeah, gins, that's so I worked with a lady, she's an archaeologist. She's got a really high-end degree. She spent 40 years doing it, and she's originally from Hawaii. The Hawaiian culture, she said, is something really important, but she started working in Romania and for, I believe it was a University of Pennsylvania, and they had her over there in the caves in Romania, and she started seeing things, and she reached out to me because she had seen these symbols before, and she had to tell me. She's like, I've seen these symbols before. And then she started to explain her story. When she was in Romania, she met a couple scholars in the library, and they were interested in her work, and they liked her. And so a few weeks later, a motorcade shows up at her house, and it's the Sheikh of Saudi Arabia, and he asked her to come to Saudi Arabia and work for him at the palace. And so she spent like 14 years working over there and documenting. And she said the jinns are absolutely a real thing. And she said that ever since she's worked there, like the non-disclosure agreement for Saudi Arabia is putting a jinn on you. And she said it followed her all the way to America. At the time when I heard this, I'm like, okay, really hard to believe. But at this point, I just take everything with an open mind because the stuff I'm seeing is far beyond my normal pay grade. All these conspiracies maybe are true. It's insane. A jinn is basically where they got the genie from in Aladdin. It's an Arabian mystical type spirit. Some are good, some are evil, to my understanding. Um, Beyond that, it's something worth researching. I don't know a ton about them other than the story she told me. Yeah, Leanne, she was pretty brief. She wouldn't type it. She had to call me. She called me from an unknown number. One day I gave her my phone number, and she was absolutely really really well spoken, very very sincere. And then she told me all this, and then blocked me, and I've never been able to get a hold of her since. I think she was definitely really concerned about the topic and has obviously been put under strict order not to divulge some of that information. I do definitely have weird feelings. Screenshot that, Starly. Um, Definitely had weird experiences. As far as dreams go, I don't dream anymore. Um, I work in the cannabis industry, and using cannabis for some reason eliminates dreams from really happening. Like sometimes I'll have brief little dreams, but nothing that I can remember ever at this point. But if I quit using cannabis, the dreams come back tenfold, and they're haunting, extremely haunting. So I don't know if the cannabis works with the pineal gland and helps it function, helps protect it, reduces inflammation, whatever it is that it's doing seems to be protecting it from nightmares. And it's kind of an interesting concept, something that I would love to learn more about. Yeah, fear, exactly. It seems like they fiend off of that fear based on what I've read and understood about evil, and that's why we get so much, BS on our news and TV, and why they run us so hard in that direction. Yeah, not selling any of this stuff, unfortunately. Not until research is complete. We have some stuff. We sell our pictures and the metal frames and some of the little tiny pieces, like this size, and little knickknacks and stuff that we really don't have any more research to do on it. You can check out our website, aliencarvings.com. It's got all that stuff on there. What is all that? These are pieces being found in Tula, Hidalgo, Mexico, and Ojuelos, Jalisco, Mexico. OG. Dwayne, the carbon dating and the thermoluminescent testing from this stuff is showing between 8 and 21,000 years consistently across about 50 tests that I've analyzed. Yeah, and I will set up a security cam. In fact, I'm going to put it into this room and I'll check it daily. I've got extra wise cams that'll grab motion detection and stuff like that. My buddy Geo Aliens, which he's a good guy to follow if you're interested about this stuff as well. He he has had some really interesting stuff like little orbs and stuff on his cameras and things that didn't make total sense. Yeah, as far as the vortex, I hope so. There's rumor that they were studying one of these tablets from Ojuelos and hitting it with certain frequencies, and it like started to open up a an electrical disturbance of some degree, and they couldn't get it to stop. They shut all the machinery and everything down. It finally stopped, but it scared the living heck out of them. And at that point, the research on this stuff became a lot more NDA friendly. Like it was really hard to talk to some of these scientists that were open about researching it because of this. So it's definitely not a toy if they are real. What they depict and what they could do and potentially hold the knowledge of is, I don't have a word for that. Yeah, if there's ever any pictures that we have too that we post on social media or whatnot, I mean, I use a 60 megapixel Sony A7R4 with a macro lens, so I've got the high res of all of it and can turn it into metal or prints. And I usually send out prints with anything. I always have a stack because it's really great to see in high def like that. Like this guy here, for instance, is really cool. This statue is only I think about 35, 40 centimeters tall. But this is a 4 foot tall metal print, and so the details you can see is it's just like zooming in. It's crazy. Really gives it a 3D effect. I appreciate that. Yeah, no idea. Josh, like there's some weird stuff like these portal things and like my buddy Geo Aliens, he just got this. It's a large slab of quartz, looks like a portal, and then it's got a Anubis sitting in a throne, and on the back of his throne is all these engravings of symbols, and then it shows Anubis coming out of the quartz, and it's specifically that quartz because it's got these two aliens connecting at the top, and so it's really kind of freaky. These are all from Tula, Hidalgo, Mexico. Yep, all of it from Mexico. Yeah, just follow Geo Aliens. Or actually, I posted it too on our feed. You can see it on our feed. It's like probably 6 or 8 videos back. It glows really, really cool. Worth checking out for sure. I didn't dig for them personally. I'm investigating them. I've worked with like 30 different families down there in Mexico. Just trying to understand it, trying to find holes in the story, buying pieces from different areas. They all go out on the weekends and teams of them dig and use GPR, georadar, um, different techniques to find the stuff. Like in Abuelos, you can see like there's little mounds and burial, little like rock formations and stuff that they've built um, to bury this stuff. Yeah, it's definitely not cheap, Lee. The shipping alone is really what hurts the whole process. I don't know, Joe. Like, I really thought so too, to the point where it's, waiting for these things to show up at your house is extremely scary. I usually don't have them shipped here, but needless to say, they'll get held up at customs because they've got to inspect them and drill them, and they'll be held for weeks. And I don't have fingernails anymore. It's really hardcore. but it is what it is. Nothing, nothing crazy, Quartz. Like it's definitely weird energy that's been perceived by a lot of different people, um, but nothing that I can't like, explain per se. No, no visitation or anything. Down there in Mexico, though, some of these guys and the stories that they have, some of the pieces that they've dug up and things like that, it's definitely pretty crazy. I would say there's good and bad energy, just like anything. It's a balance. The scales are depicted on a lot of these pieces, and I think for a reason. Yeah, exactly, Josh. Well, the trunked beings are mentioned in the Pistis Sophia. Um, Same with the dog-faced beings. And this was coming from Jesus, which is interesting that he talked about them. Dog faces and trunked beings. The trunked beings, I always thought like Ganesh, the Hindu. And then there could be relation there too. The guy on the top of this, he does have a trunk, and I believe this might be a trident. He's got a fin, so um, that could be like Poseidon, maybe. And then this guy here is maybe the same from the front instead of from the side, but the trunk is definitely prevalent on a lot of these guys. Not all of them, but it's there. Yeah, it's funny you say about the black light. Here, I'll show you. I've got a 385 to 395 UV beast, and these things are stunning. It's actually what attracted me to collecting them. The people down there didn't know they did this, and so I couldn't believe it. Yeah, the Cthulhu thing is kind of interesting. We put into AI one of these skulls. What would I look like if I was alive? And it's a straight Cthulhu. Yeah, the Saturn is a key key thing on there. Where Saturn got its name and the Saturnalia festival of the ancient Romans definitely add more to the mystery. Sorry if I go over the same stuff. It's just I know people are popping in and out, so got to get the light show. Yeah, Park. I literally thought the same thing. In fact, I bet my buddy he came back from the Tucson Gem Show with some of these pieces, and I called BS immediately. I'm like, this would be all over the news. You're an idiot. I bet you $5,000 that I can prove it to be modern. He shook my hand on it, and here we are today, 2 years later. Um, Thanks, Caleb. You cost me a fortune, my friend. I've spent over $250,000 to put this together, and for the research that I've had done, and all the other things. Yeah, this could be a type of Cthulhu with tentacles coming out. You can see there's holes in places here, here, here. Also, where's the other one at here? Well, you can see it on here. There's multiple holes, so it's possible that those could be, you know, a trunk or tentacles or who knows. Yeah, the DNA tests are coming. So in order to do the DNA testing is not extremely cheap, and it was really hard to get any lab to even consider it. And so the prerequisites are we have to have it carbon dated, we have to have SEM testing, we had to have a bone expert look at it, and then we can order C4 or once the bone expert concluded that it's not a pelvis or any sort of pelvis that he's ever seen. Um, he said that he's never seen anything like it, but he can't confirm that it's an alien either. It's still got to be researched. So um, yeah, and it's definitely Anunnaki and Egyptian relation. But we'll have data on these skulls soon, which considering they have the same language and the same type of beings on them, the same type of glow. It's going to definitely tie some of this together and give us more ambition to spend. It's $600 to $1,500 to get some of these tests ran per piece. So it's coming. It's really hard to spend that money when there's other pieces available too. It set me back so many times. Like, do I pass up on one of these schools or do I order a test? And it's really tough, like dividing your money into the right places. But at this point, I've kind of stopped bringing pieces from Mexico. I felt that I had a compiled enough collection to show a good amount of evidence to try to at least push research into researching it more. That was my goal and is my goal. And to preserve the art. We're trying to digitally preserve this art with high resolution photogrammetry, 3D scans. We're creating a museum on the metaverse. We want to use the blockchain in the metaverse because it's protected from governments from going in and deleting it. It's not centrally located in any country, which I think would be wise at this point. Yeah, we're going to get the test. So I'm on a mission. I finally found the scientist that's like really, really awesome, and you know, I got his home number, and like enjoys actually talking about it and theorizing and stuff like that. It's been really tough. It's almost like they're uncomfortable in the other scientists that I've had and done some work with. Yeah, the energy here. Check this out. This is a tri-field meter. Yeah, and here I'll turn on the Geiger too. I got a Geiger and a tri-field meter here because people ask this all the time. So as far as the Geiger goes, there's no radiation of note. I mean, there's a little ticking. You'll see, zero point 0.8, 0.15, something like that, but nothing like even close to zero point 0.6 or something of a like piece of uranium or something like that. You can see as you get close to the pieces. I don't know if the skulls really do it too much. Yeah, they do actually. Well, it could be from the box actually. Here, let me put this on the chair. Yeah, nothing on the skull, which is expected. I wouldn't expect the skulls to really have that type of reaction. It would be weird if they did. But the stone pieces all seem to emit a unique EMF. I don't know if you'd consider that a frequency or a level of emission, but it's just unique that they're all very precise of some degree too. Not as much on some. Yeah, DNA, absolutely. We've got multiple DNA tests that we can run from those schools. I've got 8 specimen like this that we're going to be testing, one at a time. I sent one to the scientist about a week and a half ago, and so he finally got a look at it on Wednesday. We had the bone expert there, and then now it's just next step. They took samples yesterday, and today I don't think they did anything, but Monday they're going to run the sweeping electron microscope on the samples, and that will tell us if we want to order the carbon test or not. Yeah, I do have access to all of this. Yep, aliencarvings.com, Anunnaki. I've documented 12,000 pieces between Tula, Hidalgo, and Ojuelos, Jalisco. And yeah, the lab is shocked, if that's what you mean, Roddy. Like, they just don't know really what to expect. They're all really excited, like little kids at Christmas. Like, he called me yesterday and he's like, "Yeah, we got the samples taken." He's like, "I just don't." He's like, "If it comes back old," he's like, "we're going to be playing with gasoline." I'd love to see your proof, Paco. I've worked really hard to try to prove it wrong myself and prove it modern, but good luck on that. I'll shake your hand if you can give me some definitive proof. And the way that I have access to these sand is these pieces are legal because of what they depict. Um, Even if they were pulled out of the ground, Mexico's on the page that they would have to have been buried by someone and made modernly, because the aliens and UFOs are not something that the Aztecs or the Mayan worshipped. So they don't believe that it's possible that it could be real. However, there's so many um, things, in the Stone Age and around the world, Göbekli Tepe, stuff like that, that it really makes you wonder, especially with the dates they're pulling out of Turkey, 8,000, 10,000 years. Same with Peru. Then obviously civilization's older than we thought it was, based on that information on two different points on opposite sides of the world. Yeah, absolutely, Josh. As far as YouTube goes, Adrian, Dr. Pablo Garcia, he's down there in Mexico. He's been researching this stuff very heavily. He had stuff to do with the museum that was robbed by the cartel down there in Ojuelos. Ojuelos used to have a museum that had, like 1,500 of these pieces on display there. You could go visit it in Ojuelos, and the cartels came in and completely stole everything. I think about 6 or 7 years ago. Oh, and as far as YouTube as well, we're going to be doing a podcast. Me and Geo Aliens are going to both co-host a podcast on there, probably once a week. We're going to have guests come on from Mexico. We're going to bring on guests, from different personalities. We want to bring on like George Norrie and stuff like that, and ask them questions and their opinion about this, and let the people that are digging it out of the ground come on with a mask on, or we'll blur their face, and they can tell their story and explain, their side of things, because it's definitely something that needs to be researched one way or another. Right now, the name is still something that we're trying to figure out. However, it's just Aliencarvings on YouTube. Right now, you can find it there, but there's none posted yet. I'm probably going to start the podcast on like the 15th.